response. At its base level, it's a response. And what are we responding to? To God's great love as displayed in Christ. Worship is us responding to something. Worship is what comes up and out of us when we consider the love of God. When we gaze up at who God is and what God has done on our behalf, when we remember the ways that God has embraced us and healed us and welcomed us and reminded us and shaped us and renewed us and blessed us and journeyed with us, when we remember all of those things, when we consider how God has held us and we remember who God is, our response to that is worship. Whatever comes out in that moment. When we're on our own doing this individually, and when we're gathered here in this space, that's collectively. But what we're doing, whether we're on our own or whether we're all together, it's the same. We're responding to God's love that has been shown to us. Our worship isn't only on Sunday. And it isn't only on those times when I get a personal retreat or get away or get to go to the National Cathedral or those morning times with the Lord or amazing walks around the Tidal Basin when the cherry blossoms are in full bloom and there's not a tourist in sight. Like if I have to wait for that in order to worship well, then, well, that's not the invitation either. Monday through Saturday, worship. Your lives and your living as a form of worship. And this has to frame how I show up on Monday. How I go into the office. I go in worship. Lived response to God's love. As I go to the job site, instead of viewing it as another day, another dollar, I view it as a response to God's great love. It's worship. How I parent my kiddos. Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you, I took Lisa to the airport this morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like locked in with these kids by myself. An opportunity to worship. How I parent, how I show up in their lives. How I show up in my neighborhood as a response of worship. As I got some bills to pay, got to pay some bills. How do I sit down to get ready to, I was going to say write checks. I know y'all not with me on that. Like log in, like how I got a bank. It's a form of worship. How I handle my money in a way that is in response to God's great love. How I clean my house as a form of worship. As I weed my garden as a form of worship. As I watch the news, as I sit down, as I live and breathe and move and walk and play. Wherever it is that I come and go, I'm worshiping. I'm responding to God's great love that's poured out to us. Jesus. Saints, this week, what I want you to do is I want us to all consider the ways and places that we get to live as worshipers, as those who are invited to live in light of God's great love displayed to us. That's our call, that's our invitation.